Do you want to know about the people who create dance moves for your favorite K-pop groups? In this video, I'm going to talk about the one time I worked with K-Pop choreographer Shaun Evaristo. Shaun Evaristo is a choreographer who has worked with artists such as Justin Bieber, Big Bang, Taeyang, 21, 7, and BTS. Okay, working for a K-pop choreographer, how did I land the job? Hey, I'm Chris Chen. I'm a theme park designer and artist. I worked on projects such as Minions Land at Universal Beijing, Sesame Street Land at SeaWorld Orlando, and Kennedy Space Center. So in this video, I'm going to talk about that one time I helped Shaun Evaristo and his company Movement Lifestyle design and kind of manufacture his booth for a convention called World of Dance. Because before I designed theme parks, I actually designed and built exhibits. And I'll tell you all about how this relates to Katseye towards the second part of the video. So this was in 2011, about 13 years ago. I just finished designing a booth for this other dance company called Boogie Zone. So my buddy Kalen Chock, who's also another very accomplished artist designer, kind of connected me to Shaun for the project. The project was to create a booth that could be easily transported, taken down, and assembled. It needed to reflect the modern minimalist style of the Movement Lifestyle brand. And by the way, we only had 1 month to design and build this entire thing. I'll talk a little bit about my process. I started off with some rough sketches. Shaun wanted a type of booth that could be small, medium, or big, depending on the space they would get in the convention, so it had to be modular. I created a model using foam core and cardboard and created different prototypes and layouts of some of the custom components that we were gonna make. After some design back and forth, there was 3 major components that we were gonna do. The first component was this acrylic sign thing, and basically the idea is that the attendees of the convention can write messages and sign their name on this board and kind of have an interactive part of the exhibit. That was fairly simple. This next part was actually much more labor intensive. That's where I had to create a 3D version of their logo, Movement Lifestyle. Originally, I was just gonna make it out of wood, but Shaun said, oh man, wouldn't it be so cool if we made it out of acrylic instead and it was see-through? And yeah, that was possible, a lot of work. I ended up having to custom cut the acrylic. Gluing plastic together is not really easy, and then you have to paint it in a certain way as well, have to sand it before you paint it. And yeah, it was really fun though. It ended up looking really good. Just really a lot of work. I created a special wooden stand for the acrylic boxes where we can put lights underneath so we could have it glow internally. I think it ended up looking really good. And finally, the last part was this custom flooring that we did with the logo. Originally, I wanted to do something with the kindergartners and just snap it together and stuff like that. But Shaun wanted it to be custom painted. So we did that, and the floor was really heavy. We had a lot of fun painting the logo. Even though it was a lot of work, I still have fond memories of that afternoon, hanging out with my buddy Kalen, just kind of measuring out the placement and just slowly painting stuff in. Unfortunately, this was not a great idea. The paint actually didn't hold up really well when the people walked on top of it. So I don't think the paint lasted really long. It ended up kind of falling apart. So yeah, that was my experience working with a K-pop choreographer. What does this have to do with Katseye and Dream Academy? Absolutely nothing at all. It was mostly just to get you to click on the video. Sohee, the choreographer of Katseye, did often wear Movement Lifestyle shirts, and he does teach at their studio. So it's very loosely related. That's kind of how I thought of this video topic. In the second part of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Katseye and Popstart Academy. We're going to do a deep analysis of the show from my perspective as an artist and designer in the entertainment industry. We're also going to highlight some important life lessons from the show and talk about how it can apply to your own daily life. So I really enjoyed the documentary. I felt like I related to it a lot, and I'm gonna tell you why. These are the 4 reasons why being a K-pop trainee is similar to becoming an art student. So reason number 1, the girls work really hard, really hard. So you can see in the documentary, there's this girl Lexi who gets a hip surgery from dancing too much. Another person, Samara, gets tendinitis and has to get an MRI from all the training that they do. When you're in art school, it's actually a little bit similar. Yeah, you are working, 10, 15, 20-hour days sometimes. I have seen people go to the ER for like not sleeping and just working so hard. Not saying you have to do that too, because usually it's not good. You can't work when you're in the ER, and usually it's poor time management or nutrition or recovery, stuff like that that's not doing really good. I've had a classmate get into a minor car crash accident because he wasn't sleeping. It was like the day of the final project, and we were like, yo, David, like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, like I was driving and I was so tired, and he fell asleep, and when he woke up he hit another car. But it's just like, not saying that you need to do that too, but it's like, that's the level of drive and dedication, like you're putting everything, investing everything into this. So if you want to become a professional artist and you're in high school or something, you should be spending at least 10 to 20 hours a week, working on your craft and stuff. Because, professionals, they work 40, and, you got to build up your stamina and endurance if you want this to be your career. All right, reason number 2, you get harsh critiques. You got to take the feedback. So the judges and the choreographers were very critical of the girls' performances. They didn't show any mercy. I remember this one 14-year-old girl, Hinari, who was on the show, was getting critiqued by the dance instructor, and she was crying, she was in tears. I felt so bad for her. She did have kind of like messy choreo, and she was actually less experienced, younger, and got to the program later. But I remember the choreographer was saying like, dude, like the fans are gonna be even harsher. The teachers are trying to help you. In art school, the instructors can be absolutely ruthless as well. I've heard stories of like an instructor taking like the student's model and throwing it out the window because it was bad. And there's stories of instructors, like when they're walking through the critique wall, they'd rip off the student's drawing off the wall, and as it lands, floats to the ground, they're like stepping on top of it and stuff. So they're really merciless, like they don't play around. And I think it's really important for students to build up that mental fortitude and resiliency. The teachers are trying to help you. In the real world, a lot of times there are no second chances. So this kind of reminds me of one of my first jobs as a theme park designer. I was an illustrator at this one company. It was one of my first jobs, and the art director had me working on this one piece, and I had more of a painterly style. And he says, hey, can you make it a little bit more clean? And I did my best, but it wasn't to his liking. So later on, when I was walking around the studio, I saw him talking to this other artist. And this other artist was just basically redoing my entire piece, like from scratch. Like all the work that I did, he was just doing it again. I was really devastated, but in the real world, people don't have time to critique you and walk you through. If you're not performing, they're gonna replace you with someone else. In some ways, we're all the same.
Don't you know we are all the same, different colors in the frame.
Meaning that we are commodities. If you're not gonna do it, they can find someone else to replace you. So listen to your teachers when you can. Reason number 3, you gotta develop skills you aren't good at. So in the show, you see that there are dancers who are really bad at singing and they have to learn how to sing. Or people who are good at singing and they don't know how to dance, they gotta learn how to dance. And being an art student is kind of the same thing. You're always learning and developing new skills, whether it's anatomy, perspective, or new software. Like I remember when I had to learn digital painting and I was used to traditional mediums, and then I had to learn 3D modeling, and then I had to learn a little bit of VR. And now a lot of companies want you to learn AI. Whether you like it or not, you gotta always be learning. Don't be stubborn and think that you know everything. So I do want to say though, you don't have to be a master at it. Like there's a minimum standard you need to meet, and that's usually good enough. You don't have to get 10,000 hours and be a master at this, and this. But if you can spend at least 100 to 200 hours learning something, be proficient at it, that's usually good enough. You gotta be humble to learn something new because you do feel a little bit stupid. And just keep developing skills you aren't good at. And lastly, reason number 4 is hard work doesn't always pay off, unfortunately. So on this K-pop show, You saw this one girl, Adela, got kicked out early. Even though she was good at singing, she was good at dancing, she ranked low on the audience ranking scores, and she was kind of booted off. Whereas like another contestant, Manon, she had low skill, low work ethic, but she did really well with social media and the audience voting. So eventually she was selected as a fan favorite. And what I want to say is companies aren't there to choose the best. Life isn't fair. This isn't the Olympics, okay? Companies are there to help them make as much money as possible. They want to get the safest bet. If you think about it, on the show, right, there's 20 trainees. Each trainee probably costs around like $200,000 to train. I'm just kind of estimating it because that's how much an art school costs. All those special instructors, dancers, you know, the makeup, the crew, the video crew and everything like that.
Probably around $4 million overall if you do the math.
They just want to pick those who will help them make their money back. And what I want to say is, sometimes as an artist, if you don't win an art contest, you don't get a good grade, or you don't get into your dream school or company that you want, honestly, sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes there are things that you couldn't have changed and you just tried your best. And, you know, I've lost competitions before where, you know, everyone was crying, everybody was so upset, and, you know, everyone felt really bad. But I feel like sometimes those failures, those times help shape us into who we are today. I think it's really important to train to be resilient. I remember there was a part on the show where one of the judges was saying like, oh, all the girls are mentally defeated, they are exhausted, they're at their breaking point, except for one girl. And this one girl did something that was different from everyone else. So this girl, Sophia, she was saying that every night before she goes to bed, she writes a letter to herself, you know, congratulating herself on the work that she did today, how she was pretty, she was hardworking, she's talented. She says these nice things about herself to hype her up, because in the industry, a lot of times, you know, you hear a lot of things that are bringing you down, and you have to be your own best cheerleader to hype yourself back up. So I hope this was interesting for you to hear. You know, you gotta be hard on yourself, but you also have to love yourself as well. Yeah, so that's it for the video. I hope people watch it. That's it. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching my video. On the left is a video that YouTube thinks you would like. On the right are some clips of my college dance battles and dances I choreographed, kind of like my blooper reel. Okay, alright, thanks, bye guys.